Very warm welcome to this news hour on Équinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, the mayor of Tuboro in the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon raises concerns of rising security threats emanating from the security crisis in neighboring Chad and the Central African Republic. And in Chad, the country's military rejects an offer of ceasefire from the rebels. It has been fighting since the unexpected death of President Idriss Déby Itno, and Somali forces loyal to the president of the country get into clashes with those working against him or fighting against him in Mogadishu. Those were our top stories. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. Primetime News Hour on Equinoxe Television. Christians of the Evangelical Church of Cameroon Pula in the Konsamba municipality in the Mungo Division littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon get into a protest. They orchestrated a protest against the pastor, and the Christians on Sunday blocked the access into the Temple of Prayer. Details in this report by Smart Jigan Gabriel.
It was an unusual atmosphere that characterized the Evangelical Church of Cameroon, EEC Polar Branch in Konsamba, Mungo Division. No church service as Christians blocked the way to the church with placards reading, "The Polar Parish has no priest. No to Pastor Kunye. Pastor Kunye out, and 9 years of incompetence out, Pastor." In front of the EEC Church in Pola, Christians have gathered chanting, according to this faithful of EEC Pola, the reason for their outing is because money they gave for the development of the church has never been used, and even the one meant for the central church has never been forwarded. It is for this reason that they blocked the church premises, demanding that their pastor must leave. If things were not pulling well at the Evangelical Church of Cameroon Polar Branch in Konsamba, the other branch at Mbarisomto was going on well, as baptism and confirmation was the hour of the day.
From Pula to Bamuso in the Bakassi Peninsula, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, where our correspondent Derek Jato takes a look at underdevelopment challenges affecting that part of the country, and he indicates that potable water and electricity are not adequately supplied to the people of that part of the crisis-stricken southwest region of the country. These are just some of the underdevelopment challenges affecting the area. His report.
In Bamuso subdivision, in the Bakassi Peninsula, the people say to get water even from doubtful sources is still a dangerous venture. And health workers here told us that waterborne diseases are on the rise.
The main ailments here that we consult, we suffer much from typhoid and minor skin illness. But as from February 2020, we had a cholera outbreak here in Bamuso subdivision, and we recorded almost 4 deaths.
And Mayor Samuel Meme, the mayor of the Bamuso Council, says the water crisis that is giving birth to other health crises will soon be history.
I want to assure you that before this year, we'll have pipe-borne water in Bamuso, and that will help us to do away with maybe some diseases that used to affect our population, like cholera and other diseases.
Water is just one. There are other basic amenities that Bamuso subdivision needs, and electricity is one of them. And Mayor Samuel Meme on his part showed proof of soon-to-be realized electrification project in his municipality.
We have an electrification project for 2 communities, which it is ongoing. As you can see for yourself, there is the construction. They are already putting in place the poles, concrete poles.
Bamuso Council has no befitting structure, and action has already been taken in that direction.
There will be a befitting chamber that will be constructed here, worth 315 million. Itself will be a magnificent one. Will be even to me, I would say it will be a touristic site in the Bamuso subdivision, because it's a story building that would have more than 30 offices.
Expectations are therefore high to see how Bamuso subdivision will turn a new page of development.
ETV's Derek Jato reporting there from Bamuso in the Bakassi Peninsula, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. And in the report coming up next, Equinoxe takes a look at how the Anglophone crisis has hindered development efforts of municipal councils in the 2 English-speaking regions of the Republic of Cameroon. A case in point in this newscast, the Kumba 1 municipality, the council failed to execute many of its projects earmarked for the 2020 financial year or fiscal year as a result of the Anglophone crisis, and added to the crisis, late award of projects or contracts, and of course rainfall. His report.
Eseme Moses Eseme, mayor of the Kumba 1 Council, amidst the ghost towns, lockdowns and armed conflicts, all children of the Anglophone crisis constituted an obstacle towards 100% realization of 2021 projects like maintenance of roads, construction of classrooms, bridges, provision of potable water, electricity and other basic social amenities. Reason why only 68.26% of the earmarked projects was realized, a slight increase from 2019.
With the Amazonian crisis, you will barely be able to execute a project which is well planned, calculated from the beginning to the end. And even the public investment projects that are dedicated to the Kumba 1 Council for execution, I realized that over the months, in fact from the time I took over as mayor of this municipality, it has really been very difficult to even get courageous contractors who can take up certain projects and execute them right to the end. Even
the municipal treasurer, Makia Sona, during the Kumba 1 Council Administrative Management and Store Account session, confirmed this.
The truth about it is that it was a very, very difficult year for us. Projects were awarded slightly late for very evident reasons, and the rains were not in our favor. So the executions were, most of the contractors were caught up by time, and we were not able to completely execute. And by the 30th of November, the contractors were still handicapped. So that's exactly why they were not paid. We're transferring the money this year, and this year they're trying to process their documents. They're going to be entirely paid. When you look at it, the one thing that is true is that in terms of cash, it was less than 200,000 francs that were effectively transferred to the new year.
Being a better performance when compared to the 2019 fiscal year, the second assistant senior divisional officer from Meme Division, Njonjo Hemia, gave a merited congratulations to Mayor Eseme Moses Eseme and his team for braving the odds to ameliorate their performance.
Let me seize this opportunity to commend the mayor and his team, as well as all councillors of the new team, for this result of the execution of the first budget of their mandate. We have observed that a report on the execution of investment projects have not been attached to the draft accounts, as well as other necessary appendices to the accounts.
The draft administrative and management store accounts of the Kumba 1 Council stood at 613,961,900 francs CFA. To get higher on the ladder, Mayor Eseme Moses Eseme calls on the councillors to stand firm, work in synergy with defense and security forces to fight the Operation Ghost Town in the municipality with hope of winning.
And in Banga, in the Mungo division, littoral region of Cameroon, what is considered as violation of the laws governing the functioning of councils in the country by the mayor of the municipality provoked anger and tension during the last council session there, and the municipal councillors were protesting over the fact that they were not given administrative documents concerning the council session within the time frame stipulated by the law. Traditional authorities also protested and moved out of the council session, complaining that they were not given the opportunity to speak. Details in this report by Equinoxe.
At the extraordinary session of the Mbanga Council in the Mungo division of the Littoral region, municipal councillors accused the mayor for failing to present to them administrative documents as stipulated by the law in force. The law stipulates that once a council session is convened, documents have to be presented to us at most 7 days before. In this case, we received the documents on opening day of the council session.
Et au départ, nous avons estimé que nous n'avons pas suffisamment parcouru les différents comptes qui nous ont été soumis.
Even representative of the senior divisional officer denounces lateness at which the session held, criticizing the slow pace at which the council functions. He urges the municipal councillors to repent from this slowness and meet the aspirations of the populations who voted them into office. In the tense atmosphere, municipal councillors walked out of the hall and returned only after hours of negotiations. Ariette Ndale Ejage, on her part, rebukes all accusations against her and rather talks of misunderstanding with her municipal councillors and rumors circulating.
C'est des incompréhensions et des...
She knows no one is perfect, but strives to appease.
En compte que, bon, pendant que je crois bien faire, il y en a qui trouvent que c'est pas total.
Traditional rulers deplore absence of dialogue among the territorial collectivities and chiefdoms. We were not even given the floor to speak. They just told us to move out of the hall because the mayor wanted to speak with the councillors. Initially scheduled to hold in March, the Mbanga Council session finally takes place after a month with an adopted budget standing at a tune of 530 million francs CFA.
The mayor of Tuboro in the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon sees the security crisis in neighboring Chad and the Central African Republic risk escalating to Cameroon through his municipality. And he was speaking on the program La Vérité en Face on Équinoxe Television yesterday. And during that program, he also said that young people in Tuboro are facing intimidation and repression from the traditional ruler of Ray Buba. For me, Armstrong Standard Report.
Stretch along a vast territorial border with Chad and the Central African Republic, Tuboro subdivision in the Mayotte division of the North region of Cameroon is plagued with an alarming level of insecurity. The people say kidnappings for ransom, cattle theft, armed robbery and assassinations have all taken a disturbing surge in the area.
Ils sont venus environ de 23 heures.
They came attacking recently, 8 in number, at about 11 p.m. They entered my house, arrested 2 persons, and beat the hell out of my 2 wives. They also kidnapped my 2 brothers. As concerns properties looted, they carried away my stock of groundnut, maize, and cotton. 11 million francs CFA was taken from me.
Tout ce qu'ils ont pris 12 millions.
Ils ont menotté ma main avec une chaîne avant de me faire sortir de la chambre.
They got me tied up and administered me beatings. My wife, upon hearing my screams, came to intervene, but she was struck hard on the head. They took 8 cows from me, a sheep,
bag of maize, and my motorbike.
Chèvre avec mes sacs de maïs ainsi que ma moto.
Problems which, according to local inhabitants, have a direct link to the political instability in Chad and the conflicts in the Central African Republic, especially that of kidnappings.
Being a victim amid two others, he was demanded 25 million francs CFA. I struggled to pay 2 million francs CFA before obtaining freedom.
Frustrated by the situation, local inhabitants stormed the mayor's office, where a memorandum demanding security reinforcement in Tuboro was drafted, signed and forwarded to the head of state. Coming back to the events on Equinoxe flagship weekly television program La Vérité en Face, the mayor Celestine Yanda says Tuboro is also faced with gross human rights violations, intimidations and threats from the traditional ruler of Ray Buba, who doubles as the vice president of the Senate in Cameroon. The mayor Celestine Yanda says the Ray Buba dynasty has for over the years crushed, intimidated and brutalized contrary political opinion in Ray Buba with total impunity. Speaking further on the alleged abuse of power, the mayor said cotton farmers in the northern regions of Cameroon are being grossly exploited by a structure based in Garwa, chief town of the North region. Hence, the management of Sode Cotton, the government of Cameroon through the Ministry of Agriculture have all maintained what he calls a suspicious silence.
Du prix actuel du kilogramme de coton au Cameroun. Ils le font parce que
the mayor of Tuboro in the north region of the Republic of Cameroon asking for higher or greater security measures to hinder the security crisis from spreading from Chad and the Central African Republic into Cameroon. And the Chadian army has rejected an offer of ceasefire with rebels. It has been fighting since the unexpected death of President Idriss Déby Itno. The rebels, known as the Front for Change and Concord in Chad, swept down from the north on the last election day, demanding an end to Déby's 30-year rule. And Saturday, the rebels said they were ready to discuss a political settlement, but did not endorse the coup that brought President Déby's son, General Mahamat, to power as leader of the Transitional Council. But a day later, the military council said it will not negotiate with the rebels. The military council spokesperson Azem Bemendua and Guna said that in a statement that faced with this situation that is endangering Chad and the stability of the entire region, it is not the time for mediation or negotiation with outlaws. He further stated that the fact militants were rebels and that there is no possibility of discussing with them. And he said, I quote, "We are waging war, that's all." Azem Aguna also says that the leader of the FACT rebel, Mahamat Mahdi Ali, was sought for war crimes in Libya, where his rebel group has an active presence. The group was formed in 2016 with a goal of overthrowing the government of Chad and has been linked to fighting in Libya's most recent civil war. And speaking to me on the inside, a Pan-Africanist, the founder and chairman of United Africa for Economic Development, and of course civil society leader and university lecturer, Professor Akumbom Mark Anthony, indicated that there is a high risk of possible explosion of the situation in the Chad, and that will affect the whole of the Central African sub-region and the Sahel zone. Take a listen to him.
Trying to look at the field over there with rebels already well armed, not any kind.
Rebels who are also against putting in place of the transitional military council.
the opposition who is actually against the transition, for the opposition, they practically can't do anything because it is the military. If they can only talk, but those who can really do something are the rebels. They might continue their campaign and keep on fighting, and that will cause chaos. The death of Idris Deby is not going to only be a hard hit on Chad, is actually going to destabilize a lot of things in Central African sub-region. Is going to in fact, when we look at the Chad basin, the Chad basin, which has Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon, and Chad, the fear is might be the next person that is coming up will not have that strategy, will not be willing to lend his hand, and what is going to happen? The terrorists will spread again across the Lake Chad Basin area, and the rebels in Mali, they might rise again. In Libya, they might extend their forces. Sudan, they might step in.
That was Professor Akumbo Mark Anthony, founder and chairman of United Africa for Economic Empowerment, speaking there now to Somalia. Fighting has broken out in the country's capital, Mogadishu, between different sections of the security forces. Reports says heavy weapons were used and mortar rounds fired near the presidential palace. Some of the military units support President Mahamat Abdullahi Mohammed, while others are opposed to him. Last week, President Mohammed approved a controversial 2-year extension of his term in office. His mandate officially ended in February 2021, and the move was strongly criticized by the international community, including the United Nations and the African Union. Yesterday, reports from Mogadishu said what started as localized clashes spread to other parts of the city, including central areas. It is not clear if there were casualties. Talking Point is up next. Thank you for staying with us in Talking Point. Today we are receiving an educationist and a school administrator, Louise Angie Debo. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Babylon, for inviting me. I hope it's going to be a nice time
sharing
this event.
We're going to talk about increasing violence in the school and in the youth milieu, and but before that, a reaction to the concerns raised by the mayor of Tuboro in the north region of the country. He says that there is a high risk, a high possibility that the security crisis in Chad and in Central African Republic could spread to Cameroon through his municipality if nothing is done to step up security there.
Before we get to the north, Mr. Babila, you see the news has essentially been negative. Information is all negative, talking about negative things around the whole world, even internally. So it is not strange for the mayor of Tuboro to be complaining, because just nearer to him is Chad that are just exploded into something that is going to be a civil war, because there is a faction that is coming from the north moving into Chad. So the fleeing of the population, we don't segregate. We will never know who is fleeing from Chad into Cameroon. So civil people will enter, military will enter, and even thieves will come in. That makes the mayor to start thinking that there is a possibility for some havoc to be caused to his community.
Right, and in neighboring Chad, where things have been unstable there, the political and security climate have been unstable since the death of President Idris Deby. You know, the military says that it will not get into any negotiation or ceasefire with the rebels. It has been fighting since Idris Deby's death. What do you think about that?
Well, it is very unfortunate for Idris Deby to have died at this hour. If I were part of them, I would not have allowed Idris Deby to die at this hour, because this is time for him. It was time for him. He was moving already. He was working for the Chadians. It was no more like the other president that think otherwise. Unfortunately for him, things didn't turn out well. Well, I think that is a very unfortunate situation for Chad. It is a very unfortunate situation for Chad, but they have the choice. They have the choice to decide whether to negotiate or not to negotiate. You know, when you are in power, in most in Africa, those who are in power, they always think that negotiation is a taboo. But I think that it is better negotiate as sooner than later. Because whatever they are doing now, at the end of the day, or the end of the year, or the end of the century, what they must do is to go to a negotiating table. So I think that if they could change their mind now, they are still talking about might because they are in power, they think that they can still do anything, but they don't know the worth of the rebels who are coming in. My opinion is that it will be better for them to accept to negotiate now than later.
It's better to negotiate now than later. Now, a student of Government Technical High School in Jombe in the Mongo Division sees his hand chopped off by his friend out of the school campus, and the information reaching us indicates that they got into a fight, and in the course of the fight, his hand, one of his hands was simply cut off, completely cut off. And this is not the first incident. I was speaking with an inhabitant of Jombe earlier today on phone, and he told me that these incidents, this kind of thing are recurrent in the area. Just less than 8 months ago, another student's leg was cut off by a young person in the quarters. And we are asking the question, what is happening in the student milieu? What is happening in the youth milieu in Cameroon?
Well, something is happening not only in the youth milieu but in the whole country, because many sectors of the country are failing. If you see the youth behaving the way they are behaving, it's not well. We can easily rush to blame the youth, but I think the problem comes from somewhere else. The problem comes from education. Educationists have turned from educating the children to teaching the children how to go and pass examination. Children are no more educated. They are taught how to go and pass examination. And that is all. That is why you will see at the end of the year, people are jubilating with 10 papers. But while inside the child's mind, there are no moral values, there's no culture, there is no value for human life. That is why somebody can afford to take a machete and temper with the hand of a fellow human being, because he doesn't have any human value in him. He has no moral value in him. And we cannot blame the children, only the children, for that. What we do in Trinity in Bonaberi is that we have made a rectangular structure between the administrators of the school, the teachers of the school, and the parents. And inside this rectangle, we put the students inside, so that before a student gets out of this rectangle, we should know. If the teacher does not know, the administrator will know. If the administrator does not know, the parents will know. So we have a good relation. We create a good relation with the parents in order to influence the children.
The behavior of the children on the school campus and out of the school campus.
And out of the school campus, we don't teach them only biology, only geography. We teach them moral values. We make them to have value for societal issues, for human being. Because if you see somebody takes a machete and is trying to cut off the hand of another and has actually done so, it's because he doesn't know the value of that hand. He doesn't know why he doesn't need to do so. He's a vacuum. He has a lot of chemistry in him, he has a lot of history in him, but he doesn't attach value to the human being that is seeing in him. And it's not his fault.
What explains the shift from what is considered as qualified as holistic education to teaching children to pass exams, to have points at the GCE, to have papers at the GCE, certificates and so on?
But that is what the system has become.
Is it a problem at the level of the curriculum? Or?
That is what the curriculum gives us to do. Then this curriculum has been handed to people who have decided not to do what they were taught, what others, our grandparents, taught them how to teach others. They have decided, they have surrendered in front of responsibility. That is why we have these chaotic situations around. The curriculum will not tell you to moralize a student. The curriculum can only tell you the number of papers you expect and the number of grades and the number of points. But it is we, the administrators, who need to know that these papers will not mean anything if the child is not moralized, if the child is not educated profoundly in a religious manner, in a way that it should have value for human being, and so on and so forth.
What has happened to moral education that was being taught to, I believe, in your time, that was very serious? While I was in primary school, moral education, I think it was one of the important subjects that were taught almost every day. But what has happened to it?
It is true. The first thing that happened is that the minister officially removed religion from having any value at the level of the external examination. So some people saw it that, well, you see, there's no need for doing religious studies. And it is through religious studies that we're trying to impact the children morally. Nonetheless, Mr. Babila, there is still some education that is going. It's just that it is in a few schools. And these schools cannot really influence the majority of people who have abandoned moral instructions. For example, in Trinity, we do moral instruction at least twice a week. Every morning that we do devotion, we go to the Bible, get some verses from there, and try to lecture to the students to impact them. So that if you even have a negative idea, that word of that morning can help you to calm down. So that the next day or in the same that afternoon, if you had to do something negative, you will not do again. But unfortunately, in many schools, it doesn't happen. What we are being controlled of is whether chemistry has been done well, whether history has been done well. So that makes the vacuum in the student. And that vacuum, the devil can easily occupy that vacuum. That's what is going on now. The devil takes that vacuum, occupies it, and when the child behaves one time, it looks like the child is a devil. They forget about the history that the child has been stuffed with. They forget about the physics that the child has been stuffed with. Most of these guys who behave like this are intelligent children. They are children who do well in class, but it's just that they lack the moral value. They have not been embedded with what it takes to be a person. Because it doesn't take all these academic subjects that I'm naming to be a person. You need to be somebody who knows the value of the next person that is near to you.
But some of these pupils and students are told by their teachers, don't fight, don't get involved into violence. But when they leave the school campus, they still get themselves involved in gangs of criminals, in quote, in the quarters, and they get themselves involved in violent activities.
It is not sufficient to tell a child that don't fight. You need to go much more further to tell him what if he fights. What are the consequences if he fights? And if somebody fights, what do you do to the child? That is it. It's not sufficient to tell somebody don't do it. We have to explain to the children what are the consequences if you fight. And when you fight, what can we do to you? And when you effectively fight, we do something that you feel it, so that you know that next time you do fight. We do a lot of other educational talks with the children to take examples, take negative examples, compare with positive examples, and see how the positive examples, look at the consequences, and the children are educated in that manner. They grow up to be human beings that have value for other human beings.
Now, out of the school campuses, the young people in the society, most of them who are not going to school, involved in criminal activities, violent activities. In the two cases that I mentioned earlier in Njombe, in the Mongo division, the most recent case, the hand of the student was cut off by his friend who doesn't go to school, and in the previous case, the leg of the student was cut off by his friend who does not go to school.
Well, this issue of not going to school, it doesn't mean these children come from a home, Mr. Babila. That is why I started by saying that this thing needs the teachers, the administrators, and the parents. The children come from a home. If they are not going to school, they need to be taken care of in a certain framework in the family. But many families, many parents have resigned and surrendered to the children. There are parents who say that the child is more than me. So when a parent tells you that this child is more than me, what do you expect of the child? The child has to do. You cannot sit down, deliver your child, and later tell somebody that the child is more than you. It is fake. It is mockery. It is it's hypocrisy. It looks like you don't know what you are doing. But I know many people outside there who come to us and say that no, this child is more than me. They come and keep the children in school because the children are disturbing.
And in most of those, in most of such cases, the parents are sometimes threatened by the children.
Yes.
Sometimes beaten by the children.
They have allowed
sometimes
themselves
wounded and even killed by their own children.
We have seen many cases that the parents have been killed. It is how the children have been brought up. They have been allowed to go into loose environments where they learn many things and they drug themselves, they do funny things, and the parents resign and say that, well, he's more than me, thinking that he is only harmful to outsiders. But when this child will not have anything to do outside, will not have anybody to attack, he will come and attack the parents. So we are trying to tell the parents that no matter how a child is not big in the parents' hands. We say in our diary that you are a child until your father dies. So as long as your father is still there, you are a child, even if you are married. But it is unfortunate that the society is made in such a way that people just, at 15, children start smoking, start drinking, start doing many things that you know. And the parents are reserved. They say, oh, it's his life. Without knowing that, this thing will turn and come to us, the parents. So parents will sit up. Parents will sit up. That's all we can tell the parents. But these children must come back to normal life, or else we cannot be having negative things in the political scene, negative economy, and the moral virtues that we are supposed to defend, that are free, that we don't buy, then we surrender again. If we surrender, then we have lost everything. Then our generation is missing everything. We are not existing, Babila. I think we should hang on the moral values of life so that this generation can have a name. Because economically, we are failing. Politically, we are failing. We should hang on the moral so that at least we should have a name to say that this time, during this time, these people were existing.
Luis Angietebo, educationist, school administrator, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you. I will wish to extend greetings to the televiewers who have witnessed us today, and particularly to the Reverend Pastor of Yoke, who is a very, very good and candid somebody. Thank you, Mr. Babila, for this meeting.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinoxe is up next.